the agenda.
It is exactly 13 after 9 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media. And next we'll be talking to Abed Karim about the update on the KZN floods. We understand that 26 more individuals have been confirmed dead. Very sad news indeed. So the death toll currently stands at 461. And again, very sadly, a total of 87 people are still missing. Abed Karim, salamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and the listeners of Salam Media this morning from a cold Ladysmith.
I know. We are in for the big freeze by the middle of this week, and I am dreading it. But let's move on and talk about the amazing work that you guys at Al-Imdaad are still continuously involved in. Very sad news that there's still 87 people missing post the floods. But I think today you also want to talk specifically about the intervention in Tonga. So let's understand what work is being carried out. And just talking about the 87 people that are still missing, and I know that Al-Imdaad can't do this on their own, but what sort of efforts are involved in trying to find the people, the 87 missing people? Or is it after a certain space of time, do we as a general public just presume that they have passed on?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And first and foremost, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making it possible for us to serve humanity. And also at the same time, to follow in the Sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to help humanity. Let us go back to the 7th of April when this floods hit the Durban area and the different, districts. For example, you had Ugu, plus you had Ilembe, that is Tonga, and Ugu is also Potchefstroom. Now, if you go back about 60 days ago, the situation was absolutely in chaos. And many of us, our listeners, even know yourself that help has been pouring in and going and helping emergency relief. Now, as I talk to you right now, after 60 days or more, the situation is as follows. In my discussion with disaster management, with who the Al-Imdaad Foundation works very closely with, to be coordinated to avoid duplication and to make sure that the interventions are targeted to the right people in an organized and structured and accountable way. Having said that, there were over 100 halls where people were housed. As we talk now, plus minus, the figures have dropped to 89 halls where people are still housed over 60 days. The question is, where are all those people gone to? From my discussions with disaster management, we were told that they have been moved to their friends and neighbors and found their own accommodations, etc., etc. But the biggest question right now is, before I answer regarding the missing persons and so forth, is that these 87 or 89 halls still have people. This is a priority for disaster management and government to move them into a rehabilitation situation and put them back into normal society. How that's going to be done? That's your guess and my guess anyway. So in the meantime, we as the NGOs are continuing with our assistance. From what I was given to told this morning, there are 15 halls that are taken care by Hot Meal South Africa that are looking after them. Disaster management is taking care of some of the other balance of the halls. But what is needed in the households, in the different wards where they've been affected, is what they're looking for is food parcels that needs to be given out to these individuals who are staying with family, friends, neighbors, etc. That is going to be, as I said, a long-term strategy. It's a long-term, situation where help has to continue. But from my discussions again, disaster management is assisting. We're also aware that NGOs internationally have come on board to help out, etc., etc. Having said that, with regards to the missing persons, this stats were given by the Premier, I think it was yesterday or so. According to Disaster Management and Search and Rescue South Africa, the search and rescue teams are still on the ground, trying their best to try and salvage and look for these individuals who have passed on. 60 days is a lot of time. I remember when we were in Kwamashu or into Zuma, we see one of the homes where persons were already buried. The community has told us the people are still buried under over here. So we don't know whether these are part of those 20, but the situation to get into the area was very difficult because you got to understand infrastructure, roads are damaged, you couldn't get access to it, all those types of things. So how do individuals or search and rescue get into those situations? So
Abid,
at the moment,
okay,
go ahead.
Mark, for the interruption. The other big question, I know that you and Al-Imdaad may not have the answer to this, but I'm just putting it out there anyway because it's on everybody's minds. You guys are doing sterling work, as are a lot of other charitable organizations. You've also indicated that there are international charitable organizations that are involved in trying to ease the plight of all the affected people. Government has pledged 1 billion rands to these survivors and the flood victims. We're hearing that nobody has seen the money yet. The money hasn't filtered through. And the right thing would be that people like yourself, Al-Imdaad and other such organizations should get the money and, make sure it reaches the people where needed. That makes the most sense to me. What have you heard or what have you learned thus far about that emergency fund?
From the reports and the news that we heard, the Premier giving a feedback yesterday, he spoke about to get KwaZulu-Natal back onto its feet, and more specifically in Tigweni, we're looking at 25 billion that is needed. If you look at the report and you heard it. And at the moment, you have 27,000 households that are in need of help. That's the latest stats, right? Now, with regards to where the money is and when it's going to come, again, I'm going to say your guess is good as ours as NGOs. We just continue filling the gap and we're continuing, but we hopefully that this money comes in as soon as possible because, like I mentioned in one interview yesterday, for how long are the NGOs going to continue? Because remember, we are reliant on business, we are reliant on everybody for funding. We are not funded by government as the Al-Imdaad Foundation. I would think other NGOs also, except some who are. But we cannot continue with this kind of intervention because you have a timeline, and the timeline is over 60 days now. But at the same time, if there is a real dire need, then the first call should be Disaster Management Center, who are funded by government. Two, let's not forget the Department of Social Development, SASA, all of them have to come on board. That's why when any request comes for Al-Imdaad now, we say, look, you need to go and check with these organizations of government that they will come on board to assist because that is their line duty, that's their line function to assist these individuals because there is emergency funding that has been declared a disaster. So I'm sure in some way that they are assisting. But to answer as the NGOs what we are doing, you and I know there's not very much we can do. But
Absolutely.
where the little bit that we can go and make lives a bit more comfortable for these individuals. Because let me tell you something, it is not easy because you're staying with neighbors, you're staying with friends, you're staying with families. You're not in your own environment like you were before the floods of April. So having said that, I would think that government has to really come in now and start, taking the baton and continuing to rehabilitate. That's the biggest thing. Get them back into the housing projects or wherever they have to put them. And if NGOs have the capacity, they will continue our thing. But there are many NGOs that are funded. For example, you have Meals South Africa, all these people. They are assisting out, I would think, to these communities in the deep rural areas also.
And undoubtedly, funds are drying up for Al-Imdaad and all other organizations simply because there are that many people out of jobs. Our employment rate is unacceptably high. The riots and the floods has just exacerbated the situation. And organizations like yourselves can do just so much and not anymore because so very many people have been hard hit by the turn in the economy, not only locally but internationally as well. And people can only give and do so much and not anymore. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide and protect us all and enable us to continue touching lives in a possible way. Let's look at the intervention in Tonga. What is that all about?
So, Julie Ali, the Tonga situation is in dire need. In my discussion with the committee that's on the ground last night, because we get updates at Al-Imdaad all the time as to what's happening. And I go back again to the 7th of April, somewhere there when the floods devastated all the infrastructure in Tonga, more specifically. As we talk right now, the Al-Imdaad Foundation, and I always say that other NGOs that are also helping in Tonga, we had sent out over 60 Giorgio tanks. Now let me give you the scenario. If you go back 5 weeks back, people were waiting at tankers coming with their buckets, old, the elderly, the sick, the infirm, the children were carrying those buckets. And then I explained last time, you've got to walk up what they call stories high in your flats. It's very difficult. So the committee also had got together in Tonga, and not forgetting the Amstranga Masjid Committee, headed by Brother Mukhtar Dawood and team, who are up till today, as I talk to you, are coordinating the tankers. Now let's understand the tankers. From the private sector, we have about 6 or 7 tankers that are from day one been working in the area, including Al-Imdaad Foundation tanker, which is in the area also working from day one. Secondly, from the municipality, from the update that I have last night, there's about 6 or 7 of the metro municipality tankers that are coming and filling up those Giorgio tanks. So those 60 or more, what they call Giorgio tanks, which have been donated by the Al-Imdaad Foundation and private donors and other organizations, are placed strategically on the street corners in Tonga. So it makes access for those families to come and fetch the water. But the biggest challenge is, Sister Ali, is that the teams in Tonga, I know, is Brother Kasim, Brother, Feroz Karim and his whole team. And also, in what's come out very clear about this over here is the different faith groups that work together, the Hindu community, the Muslim community, the Christian community, they all putting their hands together in Tonga and assisting to get these Giorgio tanks full during the night. The other day, my brother told me I finished at 1 o'clock in the morning, filling up these Giorgio tanks. So in the morning, the community can have water, they can have drinking water, bathing water, etc., etc. So in the Tonga situation, it is going now 60 plus days. It's gone to the same, scenario. And then I asked the coordinating brothers, they tell me, has any water coming? They say in Belvedere, there's one area only that some water came in through the taps, but at the moment, nothing has come along. So yes, we will have to continue assisting this community in Tonga with Giorgio tanks, because the other challenge that they mentioned to me last night, you have the bulk water, distribution place where you go and fill your tankers. And the line is so big, you got about 20 to 30 tankers all standing in lines. Private guys are coming with vans with their, bins to fill up water. So by the time that gets filled up, the whole day goes away. So how many trips can you make, really? So I think they're addressing that problem with the metro disaster to say, look, we need another bulk facility to fill up our water tankers to go out and fill in the Giorgio tankers on every street corner. So the situation, just to update, in Tonga is the very same at the moment. People are still, requiring water in, I would say, 90% of Tonga, and we hope to continue. And of course, organizations from Johannesburg have come aboard with their Giorgio tanks, etc. From what we just got an update last night, there are more Giorgio, what they call tanks, that are coming in. There are tankers also, water tankers coming in. So inshallah, let's hope that will make it a bit more comfortable, not solving the problem. Like you just asked again, the government has to come in now, water and sanitation, national has to come in and start sorting out the problems, in Tonga, and try and get the infrastructure going, inshallah, so it
Absolutely.
makes it easy for everybody.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, a very big ask. And it's going to take a while before we see a situation of normalcy in that part of the world. I'm also wondering, I mentioned job losses. I've mentioned how that puts a strain on our contributions to Al Imdaad and other such organizations, because the economy is really very, very tight. How has this all impacted on the hospitality industry? The mid-year holidays, school holidays around the corner, and we know that that used to be a huge boost for the hospitality industry in KZN. What's that scenario looking like?
From my little observation being in Durban during the time of assistance and interventions, you find that there is not very much movement in terms of the hospitality industry. But I would think if you look at most of the areas that have been affected, you take your Espingo, you take all the rural areas, it's far away from really where the hospitality industry is on the beachfront, etc., all those areas. I know there's been a lot of cleanup being done on the beach and so forth by the existing what you call organizations. I see many of them being cleaned up, and the metro. So I would think that they would be trying to get that in order to at least bring back the economy. Because remember, many people come from those areas of Chatsworth, Phoenix, Spingo, and all areas have been affected to come and work in the hospitality industry. They are working
Absolutely.
on those areas. So at least to get that going, it would be good. In regards to the areas where it affected the work, and the ordinary man on the ground, yes, it has affected because there was no access to roads. We have even seen video clips, people trying to cross bridges that are broken and falling apart just to get to work, to earn that little money to keep their house fires burning. So just that shows that what impact it has not only on the flood victim, it has impact on households and individuals who are trying just to bring in some money to put the bread on the table and to continue work. So in short, it does affect everybody, and we hope again, we all are hoping that the provincial government, the national government gets the economy going, gets the infrastructure back in place as soon as possible. And like we said in the past, this is not a short-term solution because there's a lots and lots of work that still has to be done.
Finally, let me just leave you with this question. I know you're not in the hospitality industry, but you work very closely on the ground with the people, and you've been doing this type of work for very many years. So you really are in the know. Would you say that people from upcountry and the rest of the country who normally make their way to KZN for the June, July holidays, would you encourage them to come? Because, as you said, it's much needed monies that will be coming into the coffers of KZN. We need to get that economy turning. We need to get that economy, up and running again. Would you encourage people to come and spend a week or two and spend some money in that part of the country?
I would say to all who want to go on holiday, including myself, the message is for me also that if you could, from your savings, take out a portion of it and donate it towards the persons who are flood victims, to those who are in situations here in Durban and surrounding areas, it'll be really great. It's a bit of a sacrifice on your side. Yes, we can't stop anybody from coming, but I humbly request every one of you, if you're going to spend time to come and have a holiday and take a time off, but at the same time, keep in mind that those who are not privileged and under the circumstances of the flood, let us give a portion of that saving or that little bit of money that you have towards the flood victims. Or if you're coming with your family, try and find out to disaster management through the NGOs. Listen, we are here in Durban. Where can we go and add some value to some homes? Please show us
Wow.
so we can also go out there and do our little bit. As much as we don't want to deprive ourselves, but let us also say, please, can you take us and show us where we can go and help some of these families? I had individuals who called me and said, we're going to Durban. Can you please guide us as to where we can go and help out? We had people from Rustenburg coming as far as that. And I said, yes, our Durban office, coordinate with them and just show them where to go or contact social development or contact disaster management. But at the same
Brilliant,
time,
brilliant
don't forget
suggestion.
anybody.
Brilliant suggestion. Alhamdulillah. And being exposed to those type of situations just makes our hearts that much bigger and make us more giving as true Muslims should. Abed Karim, you keep warm. It's, I'm sure, freezing cold in your part of the world. Till the next time, continue your amazing work, you and everyone at Al-Imdaad Foundation, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Keep us in your du'as.
Jazakallah so much for having us and giving an update. And we want to say to everyone, every business, every individual, every NGO, and of course, not forgetting yourself as the media house who are highlighting this plight. May Allah reward you and may Allah Ta'ala
Ameen.
take work from all of us and let us do it for one purpose. And the purpose is for the pleasure of Allah, because you don't know whose
Ameen.
turn is going to be next. And Allah protect all of us,
Inshallah. Ameen. Salaam alaikum to you. It is 9:33 exactly. We're going for a short ad break. When we get back, we are going to be talking with Reagan Allen. He is the MSc for Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape Government. We're going to be talking about the rescue of Shireen Isup. Inshallah. Stay with us.